Hello and welcome to Grumpy Gamers. You're here with me, Pete, and along with me this week we have Ben.
Hello.
And that's it. That's literally it.
What an intro. I mean, if anything, you were like so disappointed with that. And Ben.
Well, I went for a dramatic pause and then realised I'd left it slightly too long, as you do.
I did. I thought the audio had cut out. I thought you might have said Ben and I'd have to just say hello.
No, I just left a dramatic pause picoseconds too long and felt awkward about it, which is fantastic. That's always what you want to do in these things. But yeah, it's just us two this week, man.
Well, this is a good one because we're going to be talking about EGX later when you three went. So Eddie Kirker went as well, and both of them were supposed to be on.
Yep.
We tried to record last night, didn't we?
We did. Eddie attempted and failed to join us.
Eddie attempted. So Eddie's not at his home, so he had technical issues, which was always going to happen. He was demoted down to the cat's litter room.
I think it's the cat's room. I think they actually have a bedroom at that house.
Right, okay.
But it's also where their litter box is. Yes. Yeah.
So he had technical problems when he was trying to live with the cats for a moment. But...
yeah, exactly.
And Kirk couldn't join, so
yeah, Kirk's just lazy. But no, we are where we are. It's just us two, and as you've mentioned, our feature this week is on EGX. So I'm flying the lone flag from all of us who went to it, but I do at least have some notes from Eddie.
Yes, I've seen his notes. Yeah, seen his notes.
Yes, indeed. And before that, we will of course be taking you through the news, the new releases, and a bit of what we've been playing. But I think first up, we should note that you're going to finish a game this week, aren't you, Ben?
Yeah, so I've been streaming Miles Morales last couple of weeks. So it looks like we've got about 2 hours left because I think it's only about an 8-hour game. So we might even have less than 2 hours left. It seems to be coming to some kind of conclusion. So that's going to finish on Thursday, 7 p.m. on Twitch. And I'll put something out on Twitter just to kind of remind on that one. But yeah, that should be concluding. But also I want to stream some Splatoon. That's what I want to be streaming.
Yes, I thought you might.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all up in it. I'm playing it all the time. It just seems right. I was going to stream this weekend, actually, but the Splatfest just wasn't very good to stream. I want to stream some ranked instead, so we'll look forward to that in weeks to come.
Yes, indeed. There's plenty of time, man. There's plenty of time. I don't think it's going to lose popularity for a while.
I don't think so.
But
at least not in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not in Japan. And I'm sure you'll have enough people to play with regardless. But before that, because I know we're going to talk about that in what you've been playing at the very least. Yep. Should we start with the news?
Let's do the quick news. So this week, Logitech G Cloud details were announced. So it's a new handheld system. I call it system. I use that loosely. It launches October 17th in the US for $300, and it's a streaming handheld. So $300, which is, I think, Switch price category. Yeah. It supports Game Pass Cloud. It supports Xbox Remote Play, GeForce Now, which is interesting, Steam Link, and other kind of apps that you can get for like streaming services. No word on a UK release. Okay. Odd thing to cost so much money. I didn't expect it to cost this much. We knew this was coming, but didn't expect it to cost that much money, especially for something which is working over the internet. It's just it doesn't really make much sense.
It's a strange one. I mean, you'd expect more hardware for that price, wouldn't you?
Well, you would, and especially since the Steam Deck's production is being ramped up as well. So there are genuine competitors to this on the market that do a lot more for the price range. So let's see what happens. See whether it's a success or not, and see if there's a UK release. But there's no word on that. So anyway, moving on. We have Sean Layden, who is the former president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment of America. He's joined Tencent.
God. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. So, big player in the industry. So
Tencent do like to sweep up random people, don't they?
They sweep up a lot, don't they?
Yeah, they just catch everything they can. Interesting.
They have a lot of a lot of fingers in many pies and all that kind of stuff, don't they? So
you'd think the body of talent must be getting pretty bloody high as well there.
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine, because if you look at those, we looked recently at like the Embracer Group, didn't we? And like comparisons to Tencent, and it's they're a monster.
Yeah,
they're an absolute monster. So yeah, the talent pool must be vast. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. Then we have EA have confirmed an Iron Man game is in the works. So no doubt it's going to use some Anthem mechanics, I imagine, because that's the one thing that Anthem got right. Flying around like Iron Man.
Yeah, fair enough.
That checked out.
I suppose lean hard into the bit you did well, and Iron Man's
the
perfect person for it. Yeah.
Well, let's take some assets from that. Let's get some value from Anthem.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's going to be other leaks that we talk about in the news. But Diablo 4. 43 minutes of Diablo 4 leaked onto the internet. It's been a week of leaks. So this we're going to talk about a big one in the main news. But yeah, Diablo 4 getting leaked. I saw none of this. I'm not interested. I'm literally not interested in looking at it. I love the idea of Diablo 4. It looks amazing from what we've seen. I am so hyped for it. Yeah, I've been talking about Diablo 3 this week. It's so up on my hype list. It's definitely could be my most anticipated game, and it's definitely my game of the Xbox Showcase. Yeah. But I've got no interest in looking at leaks for it.
Well, this is the thing. I don't see much advantage in looking at leaks for a game you actually want to play. I don't really see much advantage generally.
No, I don't either. Because one, you don't know what the leak, you don't know from what time period that leak's coming from anyway, and whether that is what you're going to be playing, seeing, whatever. Why would I don't want to see it.
Yeah, for you, it's just potential spoilers.
It is, and also just it can even de-hype you. I don't know. What's the best you're hoping for?
Yeah.
That would be my question. And my hype is already pretty much near 100. So what's the best you're hoping for?
You manage your expectations well, Ben.
I'm all aboard hype trains. When they come along, I run alongside, jump in. Yeah, I'm on.
Start steering the damn thing.
Yeah. Yes. I'm making my way to the front of it, steering away, choo-choo, pulling on that. Yeah, that's what I do. So I'm all aboard. So I'm either 0 or 100.
Yeah.
But yeah, along the leak train, this week, YouTuber Dan Allen Gaming, who I'd never heard of, but he outed himself accidentally as the leaker known as The Real Insider. He did this by replying to a tweet from his personal account rather than his leaker account. So he was recently the leaker who leaked the names of all the Assassin's Creed games that were being announced at that Ubisoft Presents event recently.
Oh, no.
I know. So the big takeaway from this, the big confusion point rather, is he gained nothing from this because he was doing it under an alias. Yeah. It wasn't attracting more to his YouTube account, of which he had over 100,000 subscribers. So this man was probably making a living from his YouTube channel. He gets press stuff, we sometimes get some smaller stuff and all that kind of stuff, and you embargoes or you can't say things like that. Everyone kind of respects that, and that's how the system works because they expect you to. But he was obviously leaking this information through this Twitter account and fucked up. And has released an apology video and all this kind of stuff, and people are on the train of saying, well, he's apologizing because he got caught. Yes, probably. You also only realize the damage of your actions when you are caught. Yes. And you only consider them. So there will be some honesty behind the
I'm sure he's very sorry, but not in the way you'd expect. You know what I mean? It's a selfishly motivated sorry, for sure.
It isn't everything, Pete. So So yeah, I mean, we can beat around the bush and argue the philosophical points of it, but the man did apologise. But he's effectively ruined his career doing YouTube gaming and stuff like that. I don't feel bad for him because of his actions, but I feel bad for him of the consequences. You've really fucked yourself there, and for what? For internet clout.
that wasn't
for
even
clout.
linked. Yeah,
That wasn't even linked. They don't even know who you are.
yeah.
So
Well, they do. They do know. That's the problem. But yeah,
yeah, it is a real shame. Like the whole incident is just a real shame. And also to leak, he's leaked other things, but nothing from what I saw and researched seemed that big. Like, sorry, you've leaked names of assassins. Who gives a fuck?
I know.
Who gives a fuck what it's called?
And this is the thing. He's no longer going to get pre-packs of any kind. Like,
no, he's going to get nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, you would think anyway. So you've leaked nothing important on a completely anonymous account for no benefit.
I mean, half the games are called codenames.
Yeah.
Codename Red.
Yeah, very true. My God.
But maybe he'll gain notoriety out of this to then come back in some way, shape, or form. He had some pretty big interviews and stuff on his account. I think he played Red Dead Redemption with like the Arthur Morgan, like that is his name, right? Arthur Morgan, yeah. Character, like the person who voice acted him. I think he'd done things like that, and I had like a lot of interviews with YouTubers and been on Pocket. Like he's just a popular guy on gaming YouTube. It would seem, not that I knew who he was, but you know, it's just a bit of a clusterfuck, all a bit of a clusterfuck,
yes,
and
definitely.
for what? So it's a crying shame. Then we had yesterday, I think it was. I'm not sure about this is the news, but I'm not sure if what I've written here is completely true. A Silent Hill demo for a new game has been leaked. That's what I've written down. I don't think a demo has been leaked. I think the possibility of a demo has been leaked.
Oh my God. Right, okay.
Not great news. The problem with this story is that I popped it in just before we were set to record last night and then didn't do any further research because I was just going to say, oh, there's some Silent Hill news. Yeah, don't really know what it is. I think this Silent Hill game that is coming out has been rated in Korea. So therefore, there is some legitimacy to this. It's called like the short message or something like that. Don't know whether it's a proper game or if it's anything more than just a mobile. We don't know what it is.
We're leaning too heavily into the not quite news here, Ben. Yeah.
But also, if it's been rated in Korea,
yeah,
it generally means that the game comes out quite quickly. So it can't be anything big because they would have announced it. Who knows? Who knows? The not quite news. That's your not quite news for the week. And the last one of the quick news is yesterday was Last of Us Day, which they have each year, which was previously known as, I think, Outbreak Day, which I think they had to felt like they needed to rename because of recent world events. But yes, Last of Us Day, and I was hoping for something like the new Factions game, like a trailer for that, maybe some screenshots, none of that. But there was a trailer for the new TV show.
Well, of course, yeah.
The new HBO TV show, and I think it's had more than 10 million views on YouTube. It was like the number one trending video on YouTube. It looks impressive.
Yeah.
It's really good. So that is a show that I'm all in on. Looks very true to the game, and even showed parts of the DLC for the first one. Really? The Left Behind DLC. Now, whether that's like flashback stuff that they've incorporated in, and whether they're going to do that in a second series, or it looks like to me from just that trailer that they are covering the whole of the first game, including the DLC within that series. But again, not quite news.
Yeah, from a 2-minute trailer. Okay.
I think it's 1.5 minutes. I think it's 90 seconds.
So, you've got a lot from that, Ben. You've
absolutely
taken a lot
got
from
loads
that
from it.
Run with it.
Got loads from it, buddy.
Yeah. I'd be very surprised if they did that, because that's a lot of content to use in one series.
Well, I was surprised as well, because to me it seems like you would want to stretch that out a bit, wouldn't you?
Yes. Well, look at what they're doing with things like House of the Dragon, where they're barely touching the sides in the first season. They're barely even getting into it in the entire first season so far. So, yeah, I'd be very surprised if the whole of the first game and its DLC was season 1.
Yeah, I think you're right, because House of the Dragon, I mean, they spent the first 5 or 6 episodes focusing on like the early life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they've only just, I think, at the last episode, which I haven't watched yet, changed to the kind of like older characters.
Yes, indeed.
So, yeah, they really are taking their time, and it's been very good so far. Yeah, I know your feelings on that. That you don't want to watch it. It doesn't matter. But yeah, Last of Us. I anticipate that they will be they'd want to leave it open, but who knows?
Maybe it leaves room to go into more detail on these things and just kind of change the timings of things as well.
And you know what? It could actually, because of the age of the actor playing Ellie, they could, like, timeline-wise, fix it so it could go into either a period in between the games, or then go into the second game. So I'm sure there's loads they could do. Maybe this first series is just the first game. So who knows? Who knows? But we will find out in 2023. And that is the quick news.
No, but that got slower as we went through. But that makes sense. That was more detail than later ones. Well, I suppose we should move on to the full news. Obviously, we were expecting to have Eddie do one of these, so I'm going to be riffing his when we get to it. But that's life. We'll get to that. But we should really start with the main leak of the week, shouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which is, of course, Rockstar. And this has been going on for a couple of weeks, really. But obviously, because we had our special, it kind of meant we didn't look at this.
Yes, yeah, we didn't cover it at all.
Yeah, so this, of course, was the 90-plus screenshots and videos reportedly taken from GTA 6 that were leaked online. And there's been quite a lot of stuff that's happened since, including the capture of the perpetrator. But I suppose we should start by saying that Rockstar acknowledged this and came out and said that a leak of the work-in-progress development materials had taken place over the weekend. The actual statement said, "We recently suffered a network intrusion in which an unauthorized third party illegally accessed and downloaded confidential information from our systems, including the early development footage for the next Grand Theft Auto. At this time, we do not anticipate any disruption to our live game services, nor any long-term effect on the development of our ongoing projects. We are extremely disappointed to have any details of our next game shared with you all in this way. Our work on the next Grand Theft Auto game will continue as planned, and we remain as committed as ever to delivering an experience to you, our players, that truly exceeds your expectations." So, again, it's so politically written, these statements. So they don't really tell you very much, just, this happened, it doesn't change anything. Is basically what you could summarise from all of that, couldn't you?
Yes, that is what you could summarise. I mean, it's quite interesting that they do say about it not changing kind of like delivery times and things like that. So the whole problem with this was that there was the potential source code leak, which I don't know whether that's happened or not. There was obviously a load of text and everything that was written on the screens of a lot of the videos and everything like that, whereas, developer stuff. Now, if the source code gets leaked, then the problem with that is that you can get cheats and all this kind of stuff that get developed in advance.
Yeah,
and
people can basically develop in parallel with you based on
it.
That's a major problem.
And so they might need to rework that and that infrastructure and all that source code and stuff like that, so that can't happen. And that could potentially delay the game. Now, Rockstar have said no, they've just given an indication that isn't the case.
Yes.
Also, I mean, we're so far from release, and these videos could have been from earliest 2019. A lot of stuff could have changed in terms of that core source code. So,
and you'd honestly expect it to. But there are obviously a couple of points that sort of came out of this that I found quite interesting. The first of which was the condemnation of the leak, by the way, which came from all sorts of sources, but included God of War creative director Cory Barlog and Naughty Dog's co-president Neil Druckmann, who said, "To my fellow devs out there affected by the latest leak, know that while it feels overwhelming right now, it'll pass. One day we'll be playing your game, appreciating your craft, and the leaks will be relegated to a footnote on a Wikipedia page." I quite like that as a comment, to be honest.
Yeah, I love it. That's
a really
brilliant.
good statement. And I did think it must be so frustrating for actual developers to see this sort of thing happen. Not just for Rockstar, but for those we mentioned in the quick news as well. It's you're putting a lot of work into this. We've all heard about the hours, potential hours anyway. I doubt they're at that stage yet on GTA 6 particularly.
Well, I think it's so. I mean, initially when this came out, I was like, okay. I looked at one of the videos. I think the one that everyone's seen, the one in the diner or whatever. And I was like, okay, just turn it off. Like, yeah, all right, whatever. I don't care. It's not a big deal. Like, whatever. It's early screenshots / videos of a game that's coming out. Who cares? It's so far away. Yeah. It's so. I think Kirk mentioned it in our chat, and I was just like, it's so far away. Like, who cares? But the issue here is that you get people looking at this, I suppose, and going, "Oh, GTA 6 looks shit." Okay, what? Yeah. It's hardly even GTA 6 yet.
This is the thing. That is essentially looking at a cake while it's a pile of flour and a couple of eggs and going, God, that's
exactly.
Rubbish. Like,
exactly.
What are you talking about?
Who gives a fuck? Like, it says what? But yeah, that's that, and that's so annoying. And that must be. And there's been a lot of love outpouring for the developers and stuff like that. And I get that actually, because it would be fucking annoying. I don't know whether it's like soul destroying, like people are saying and making out. Like if somebody, I do a lot of work with spreadsheets. If somebody saw my spreadsheets when they're in development, I wouldn't be.
Yes.
So, oh no, the world has ended. But like it's pretty shit. It's pretty shit for these guys. But I kind of. So we should probably talk about like the perpetrator, like we.
Yes, well, I was going to say
there's
there's actually a second small note I want to focus on, which we'll come to first, I think, because
the
one useful thing from this that I thought anyway was, hey Ben, this has a female protagonist.
Yes, yeah. Well,
that's what it's looking like.
Yes, we did it. So we had that story. It was like a month or two ago where it was like that. It was supposed to be like a dual female. Like Bonnie and Clyde type thing. Yeah. That's what we had rumours about, didn't we? So this does confirm that. So
massively so, yeah. And I think that's actually a very good idea.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, and I'm all in.
Yeah,
that's great.
I thought you probably would be. You'll just be frustrated when you have to play as the man.
Yes, yeah, furious.
Yeah, definitely. But yes, the final thing we should note on this is the perpetrator, who actually you filled me in on earlier because I wasn't fully aware of this. But it's a 17-year-old kid who's been caught.
Yes.
In Oxfordshire.
Yes.
Wow.
So London police reported it. It's mind-blowing. Like at Rockstar, they must have just... It took them less than a week.
Yeah.
It took them less than a week to find this guy. Yeah. Like, I could just imagine like Rockstar just being like, fuck this guy, we're getting him, we're finding him, we can find him. Like, you leave a trail. Like, there is something that's left. So when this happened and the leaks happened, like, the guy was like posting, I think, and saying like, I think he said he might have source code and he could post that, and then he almost like invited them to contact him. Invited Rockstar to contact him, and I think there was the intimation that there was a ransom. There could be a ransom,
and there was even figure sum, wasn't there?
There was even rumors like. Yeah, there was even rumors of GTA 5 source code being leaked.
Yes.
It's like all of it's probably, a lot of that's probably bollocks and stuff. But the whole point was that it seemed like this guy was just like reacting on the fly, and people had said before this, like, this seems like a child.
Yes,
it seems like a child is involved with this, or is a young person. Now, equally, it would appear from videos that I've seen and what people are saying that this was kind of a social hack as opposed to a conventional hack that we'd normally think of. So I believe there may have been getting in touch with Rockstar kind of technical support and asking for like password changes and stuff like that, and password resetting, then gaining access to their Slack account, and then that allowed them to have access to all these videos and stuff during their like conversations and whatever they've got going on in their Slack account. So he then just had free reign on that stuff. So it's kind of like a social hacking, but you've got to like ask at this point, like, what's the point? Like, this person who's, I don't know, do you just go down a rabbit hole? He's ruined his fucking life.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, potentially. I don't know what kind of sentencing you get for this, but especially as a minor. You're going to go to prison. Well, especially you're going to go to prison.
You're going to get... Well, yeah, but you're 17. I don't know.
Yeah, you see what I mean? Like, he's 17. He's not going to adult.
He's 17, but he's going away.
In some way,
come on. Yeah, absolutely. Like, this is... You know, they're going to go full force at this, surely. Like, I mean, and it's shit because when we were that young... I wouldn't have... Granted, I wouldn't have done this, but I wouldn't have realised the repercussions of everything that I was doing.
Yes.
And this screams of someone who just doesn't realise the repercussions. Now, there's said to be some kind of involvement with some hacking group. They've claimed like ownership, but I think who knows like what that actually means. I mean, to me, on face value, before we know all the facts, but it just seems like a 17-year-old has just done some stupid shit here. You're never getting away with that. Like, what's the point? And he even acted like he didn't expect it to blow up, saying like, I didn't expect this to go viral. Sorry, you've just put GTA 6 screenshots and videos, and not even like one screenshot. Yeah, you've put it all out there. If you were an inquisitive teenager, like, and you were just like, seeing what you could do, don't post it. We live in a world where everybody posts stuff on the fucking internet. Stop posting shit on the fucking internet, unless you were always going to do that and that was your goal. But maybe young people just are in the fucking habit. Like,
yeah, and I mean, there's so much here that suggests that it wasn't pre-planned, at least not by him. You know, the fact that he probably got hold of the support line somehow, and then from then on is chancing his arm to see what he finds.
Absolutely.
But that, again, he asked for a 5-figure sum. If you have the source code for this game and you ask for the 5-figure sum, you're either very young or a moron or both.
To be paid in Bitcoin as well.
Yeah.
I think it was. I don't know how much of this was actually asked for. It's just me embellishment. It could be embellishment onto it. But who knows what? But it's just all. It just the whole this week has just been leaked central, like with the Diablo stuff, with the Ubisoft, with the Ubisoft leaker thing. It's just, what is the, like, seriously, if a game is coming out in a year's time or something, or even longer, I don't give a fuck. Just give me a trailer when you want a trailer. Like, that's fine.
Well,
but
no.
I'm not chomping at the bit for anything.
Show me some gameplay.
Show me some. Yeah, but under the right light, shine the right light on it. Let the developers do it. I don't want somebody to be like, "Oh, this is what's going on behind it." I don't give a fuck. Yeah. I don't care. Yeah. Like, why are we just like the GTA thing? I looked at the video just to see that it was legitimately out there. Like, after being told, oh, okay, so should I go on YouTube? It's just there. Okay, that's weird. But, like, I'm not judging anything by it. Like, just turned it off. Like, what's the point? Like, and it just seems like in a year's time, in the Diablo case, or in a couple of years' time, in this case, the game's going to be out. Whatever you've done to leak is just dust in the wind. Like, it doesn't matter. And you've just potentially fucked up your whole life. Yes. The Ubisoft guy fucks up his whole career. Yes. Like, the person who leaked Diablo, if they ever get found, like, you're leaking something that's literally coming out next year that's going to Game Pass. Yeah. Like,
well, the worst thing
it's probably not going to Game Pass until the deal's done, but yeah.
Yeah, very true. If the deal's done. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I suppose the biggest thing that comes out of all of this for me, and this goes back to the other stories in the quick news as well, is I don't see this as news. It is news. It's the biggest news in the gaming industry right now.
Yeah.
And I don't actually think this should even be news. It means so little. Like, you see basically nothing, definitely nothing that will be in the final thing.
Yes.
You gain a window into one stage of the development process without any context around it. And the people who do this potentially ruin their lives to do so. And yet, I don't even see it as news.
Yeah, Pete, you're bang on. You're saying exactly what I'm thinking. My takeaway from this is the news is, oh, Rockstar could get hacked by a social hacker. Isn't it interesting that social hacking is perfectly possible and maybe they need to up their security? That's the news from this. The news to me isn't, oh, look at these screenshots, look what it shows, look, there's this character doing this, or look, it looks at this. What that is not. These videos could have come from anywhere in the last couple of years, like up to 3 years ago, and the game is coming out in probably 3 years' time. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like, that's like the stuff shown. And this is what really gets me. It's like, and for what?
Yes.
Like, what has this guy done? For what? Like, oh, what a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
Like, that is so idiotic. But
Jesus.
Biggest news of the week.
Yeah, sadly so. But should we move on to other news?
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on. This week there was lots of Twitch news. Actually, we're talking about gambling and pay changes. So, first up, on gambling, there's a new policy that prohibits streaming of gambling sites that include slots, roulette, and dice games that aren't licensed in the US or other jurisdictions that provide sufficient consumer protection from the 18th of October. So they can't stream gambling sites now.
Right.
There was like threats of streamers like going on strike or something. Somebody from Team Liquid called It's Slicker.
Right.
Okay. Admitted to scamming viewers and fellow streamers out of $200,000 to fund his gaming addiction. So that's what I think might have prompted this. Then a load of other streamers tried to game like clout or what do you call it? Virtue signaling by saying this is terrible and we should all strike. And then you got Twitch in the background saying, you're the highest earners, you definitely go on strike, because then everyone watching you will just watch people that we have to pay less. So that's fine. That's all I was thinking. Like, that is not serving the purpose that you think it's serving. But yeah. Anyway, Twitch responded with that. I think good news. It would appear. So that's good stuff. Secondly, on the pay stuff, there's been a pay restructure, and there's been a bit of an uproar about it. So initially, Twitch, like, you could petition or request that Twitch look at different things, and they were requested to look at the 50-50 revenue split that most streamers get. So most streamers get a 50-50 revenue split. Now on YouTube it's different, it's like 70-30, and I think Facebook gaming is even better than that. But the biggest streamers sometimes negotiate better deals, and they get up to 70-30. Okay. So they get up to 70-30, and so they're asked to look at it for parity, and people say, oh, maybe everyone should be on 70-30. Now, Twitch definitely looked at it, and they definitely created parity. But not in the way that everyone wanted. They put it down so that everyone gets 50-50. Nice. Now, from June 2023, where previously the top streamers were getting 70-30 split, now up to $100,000, they still get the 70-30, but then after $100,000, they get 50-50. So they're still getting that top earning at the lower end. But this is going to affect like those huge streamers on Twitch. It is going to affect those who, but they were getting monster incomes, the real big ones, not it. Like we see all the big numbers for the big streamers now. Not only 20 are earning that stuff, and then everyone else is earning a lot less. But you know, it's one of those things. Only affects top earners. Other platforms, like I said, do better, and so that could mean that people move over. Like June 2023 isn't too far away. Yeah. It's my understanding that Twitch does not make a profit. Okay, it's owned by Amazon, and people, because it's owned by Amazon, people go like, oh well, Amazon can afford it, and they say that Amazon's just a greedy goose.
Yes.
But you know, Amazon aren't going to perpetually run a loss-making entity. They're not going to do it. Like, Amazon itself made losses for fucking years, but the business model worked in the long run. Now, if they don't believe Twitch does work in its current capacity, then they need to change it. there are a lot of costs involved running Twitch and getting people on the platform and all this kind of stuff, the servers and everything. So, and they are masters of their craft. I mean, you try and watch something on Facebook gaming and it's pretty gash in comparison to Twitch. So, this seemed like it'd have to happen. You got a lot of lower level streamers who are not earning the 70-30 coming out and saying like, this is shit, it's affecting people's livelihoods. I'm there thinking, well, yeah, but you'd rather have Twitch than not have it at all, wouldn't you?
Yes. The whole point is it's clearly not that bad for you if you're still on the platform.
Yes.
You're still making an income from it.
Yeah, you're still making an income. And they are doing the 70-30 up to $100,000, so there is still a lot of wiggle room for the majority. They must know that that will capture 95% of streamers, and it's just the 5% that are affected, something like that, And it's not great. You don't want to see people earning less, and there are other platforms that do that better split, obviously, but they also do other things. Like YouTube have a slightly bigger kind of offering of what they've got going. So Twitch is very specialist.
And I mean,
and maybe it doesn't work.
Yeah, well, this is it. I know for one reason that Legend of Total War doesn't use Twitch. He only uses YouTube because he doesn't like the way they work it, and he doesn't like the rest. I do question why Twitch aren't making money if they're doing a 50-50 split, because 70-30 is the standard in a lot of things. Like, not even just in the gaming industry. It's the model a lot of them take.
Well, we don't know the costs involved to get certain people onto the platform.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Well, they could be spending money on getting people onto the platform.
Yeah,
that
it could well be they're trying to monopolise people by paying them.
Yeah, they pay them a fee to be on them. They get, and it's exclusive, and they have to stay, and they have to do a certain number of hours, and it's all this type of stuff. Like, it's basically a paid contract in that regard. So
yeah, and in that scenario, I have a lot less time for what Twitch are doing there. But we don't know for sure.
From a consumer standpoint, I like a singular. I mean, we've said it before. Like, singular platforms are nice when the interface is fantastic and you get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, look at my
singular platform is great.
Yeah,
because then everyone's on the same place. It's not good from an employee / somebody who's on that platform necessarily, because then they get squeezed. So I'm not saying anything about these splits in particular. I'm just saying that if Twitch aren't making a profit, they've probably got to turn a profit at some point. So following this uproar, Twitch's senior vice president of global creators, Constance Knight, is leaving the company. So the quote is, she's off on a new adventure that provides exciting growth opportunities for her, both professionally and personally, in the creator space. Now, I think she actually does have this stellar CV. I think she's worked for a lot of kind of these huge creator companies like Instagram and people like that. So I think she's pretty damn big time. Bloomberg says that Knight's departure from Twitch means that the firm has lost its chief content officer, its chief operating officer, and now the vice president in this last year alone.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on behind the scenes at Twitch.
Maybe part of it's going on their payouts.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yes, maybe. Yes, exactly.
It's now 40-60 because we lost another one. Yeah.
Yeah. But off the back of all of this, you might see people moving over to YouTube, and so more and more people are moving over to YouTube. I think Facebook Gaming had a thing where it was some crazy split, like it was almost 100% going to creators at one point. But I think the UI and just the server, the problem with Facebook is like it's just dodgy connection. I just never get a good stream watching it. Yeah. Twitch do a fantastic job. They do, and I think they are probably the best in the business. So let's see what happens.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, lots of Twitch news.
Yeah, ideal. God, well, that leaves us with Cyberpunk, doesn't it?
Oh, it's me and you, Pete.
It always comes back to Cyberpunk.
It always comes back to Cyberpunk.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a couple of parts to this one as well. But the first one to note is that Cyberpunk 2077 hit 1 million daily players last week.
Yeah.
And that's actually each day in-game, 1 million players.
Pete, I can only assume that's because we had our 100th episode last week. And there was some pretty big cyberpunk stuff in that episode. So I can only assume, I can only assume everybody listened to that and then went, you know what? Spread the word. Let's play the game.
Yes, that's definitely how it started, for sure. No one can prove otherwise. But no, I mean, obviously, CD Projekt Red revealed this on their Twitter and spent a lot of time thanking new and returning players for this. But I think, honestly, quite a lot of this is coming from new players. I know you're a returning player for one, and we both know I'll play again at some point. Mm-hmm. But right now, I think there's a lot of new players in it. Because, what was it, yesterday or the day before that, I think, Cyberpunk was currently outselling Modern Warfare 2. And
yes, and Football Manager.
Yes, and it actually went to the top, you know.
Yeah.
2 days ago, this went number one.
Number one revenue generator, wasn't it, on Steam?
Exactly, yeah.
So,
well, it was top seller by revenue is how they phrased it.
Well, also, concurrent players. Mm-hmm. It had over 100,000 concurrent players. I think it was 104,000 concurrent players during the week as well. Like, it hit new peaks. Yeah. Now, obviously, at release, it had more. But so I don't know when they start doing the concurrent. Because the quote that I saw was that the concurrent players of Cyberpunk 2077 is higher than The Witcher 3 has ever been.
Yeah.
But I think that goes outside of the launch window. So I think it's like the post-launch, like the concurrent players, like it's higher than The Witcher's ever been. That's amazing. Like the resurgence of this game, these last couple of weeks has been tremendous, and it no small part put down to the Edgerunners TV series.
I think that's got to be a big part of it, and we will of course talk about that in a bit as well.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's what, 2 weeks old now? Edgerunners?
Yeah, and that is the catalyst for this. Don't forget, at the start of the month was the presentation that we both kind of covered in the news before, didn't we? So, you know, they've had a month leading up to this. They've had the anime come out, and now everyone, I mean, Twitter is just like Cyberpunk everywhere. I cannot believe it. I was watching the Quest director play on Twitch the other day. Like, and these developers just seem so happy. Like, the amount of developers, I've probably seen 3 or 4 of them post on Twitter, and one was like, we've gone from like just being embarrassed about the game to so much love and like finally getting like praise for it, and we just feel like amazing. And you're like, yes, that's fantastic.
Yes it is.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it.
We will come back to it. This is a Cyberpunk heavy episode, which again, considering it's almost 2 years old.
Yes. You know, when as soon as Eddie couldn't record and Kurt wasn't good. Well, even if Kurt was here, he would join in the Cyberpunk chat. But I knew where this episode was going to go. So I apologize to listeners who either haven't played it or just aren't interested. But we'll talk a little Cyberpunk.
At this stage, we need to kind of change the intro music for this week's episode to spoil it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll look into it.
Yeah, good man. But before we do that, we should get on to the new releases, which is going to be a challenge with no Eddie.
Yeah, because you know we're not voice actors, as Eddie obviously is. He's a professional accent doer.
Yes, he's paid for that pirate, Cornish, Irish, Scottish combo.
Absolutely. It goes down really well. So we'll see how we get on with this.
Yes, indeed. But we've got a very stacked time, because obviously we've got 2 weeks worth of games. So we have culled a few already, and we are going to focus on a few in particular. But we'll start off with the Diofield Chronicle, which came out on everything on September 22nd. So this is a gritty and immersive story brought to life with the latest technology. Introducing real-time tactical battle, which I thought we'd seen before, a new, deeply strategic real-time battle system. The beginnings of a new strategy RPG crafted by a skilled and experienced development team. Yeah,
that's a different type of blurb that we've seen before, isn't it?
Massively so, yeah. But that is the one they use on Steam. They're really...
Well, there we go. But they highlight the development team experience.
Yes.
This real-time tactical battle system. It's been getting really good reviews, I think. I've put in my notes that it looks like a Final Fantasy Tactics game.
That's what
a lot of people were raving about it. But I also think a lot of people were raving about it because Every Man Is Dog seems to have got a review code for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's probably a victory for them in terms of marketing, though. But they've... Yeah, it does very much look like Final Fantasy Tactics. And if you like that type of game, there's probably something here for you.
Yeah, I don't think it's much more we could say. It's not a genre that particularly appeals to me. I know Eddie said that he wish listed it. Is that right? Yes,
he did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't expect that from him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a type of game he does dive into, but I didn't think this particular one would do it.
No, right. I didn't think you liked the kind of character styling of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So, but hey,
I think he'd be
in 6 months. He'll suddenly tell us he's played it. So,
well, 6 months. It'll still be bloody. It'll still be 40 quid in 6 months.
In 6 years.
In 5 years. Yeah. There we go. I'll go 5. You go 6. Okay. Yeah, there we go.
We'll take a sweepstake and we'll come back to this in episode 300 or something.
Yeah.
Now, also on September the 22nd, we saw Gundam Evolution come to PC. This is an online free-to-play first-person shooter. It's from the Gundam anime. Eddie had noted for us kindly that it's probably horrendous. So, yeah.
That's great. That's an Eddie comment. So yeah, probably horrendous. Yeah, that's what he's. But I tell you one thing, there are so many of these fucking Gundam games, aren't there?
There's like, just a lot
if you're
of
a fan,
content.
If you're a fan, there are loads. Like
your boots are overflowing. Yes,
absolutely, man. You are, fill them up and then refill them and get a new pair.
Yes.
Like that's it.
Yes,
you got loads of Gundam.
Definitely, but that's
our comment.
There you go. There's a lot of Gundam. Enjoy it if you like Gundam.
Absolutely.
But the true triumph on September the 22nd, Ben, was Slime Rancher 2, which came out on PC, Xbox Series X, Game Pass day 1.
Yeah.
Should I do the blurb for this? I feel I should.
Yeah, blurb it up.
Continue the adventures of Beatrix LeBeau as she journeys across the Slime Sea to Rainbow Island, a land brimming with ancient mysteries and bursting with wiggly new slimes to wrangle in this sequel to the smash hit Slime Rancher.
There we go, wiggly new slimes. That's what got me. Right. Yes, this one seems quite good. I mean, it is top draw on Steam, isn't it? Like the reviews on Steam are like insane.
Yes, which I honestly I can't believe it. I considered culling this one when I first added it to the list, and then went with the Ben Kershaw theory of, well, it's a sequel, so it must be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first one was supposed to be good. Mm-hmm. I never played it, but this one, the fact that what people were talking about, and I think even Worfaby, who's notorious for not really liking new games, as far as I'm concerned, he gave it a thumbs up, I think, as well. Like, it's, there's building mechanics, there's upgrade systems, you're like a slime, like farm rancher type thing, and it's like
you're a slime rancher.
Slime rancher, and you're the second time you've done it.
Yeah.
But I think it looks really good. I really want to play it, but it's going to be a time sink, isn't it?
Well, this is the thing. I look at this and it looks really good. I will grant you that. It looks really good for what they're trying to do, but nothing about how it looks makes me want to play it, which is baffling.
And it also looks like a kid's game. It looks like a kid's game as well. I remember looking at the first one. I think it was like Switch Up or somebody like that did a review of the first one on the Switch, and I think it was on the Switch. And they're like, don't be put off because this is actually really good.
Mm-hmm. Terrifying.
So yeah, like I'm interested. At some point, I will play this game.
It's technically only early access as well
Is it?
On PC at least. Yeah, it's technically only counted early access, but overwhelmingly positive reviews, over 6,500 of them already.
Yeah,
I think they're the winner. I think they, at least for last week, they look pretty damn strong, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, spoilers, you're probably going to have to pick a game of the week.
Oh, so. God. Okay, right. I'm taking on that duty, am I? All right.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Well, let's move on to the next one for now then, which was Tales of Tomorrow Experiment, which came out on PC on September the 23rd.
Yeah.
TOT Experiment is a sci-fi short story game set on a remote ship wandering through space. Without any memories or recollection of his past, our hero is tasked by the ship AI, Aria, to perform daily tasks that will help maintain the ship. So this is a pretty short game. It's apparently about 2 to 3 hours long, but incredibly repeatable. Eddie had noted down here cheap, which for him is probably a positive. But
I didn't know what the price was going to be, so I still don't know the price. It's only a couple of hours, so you're looking at the price. But so I've seen a review of this game. I actually watched it even before I knew this was in the new releases. Didn't realize it's going to be there. It's interesting because the blurb says perform daily tasks, but the tasks that you perform are actually like little puzzles. They're not like daily tasks like running the ship or anything. It's like, match this thing to this thing over here. And then what you do between the tasks is basically try and figure out a way to beat the AI, because you're trying to kind of get off the ship, I think, or break the AI on the ship, because the AI is kind of controlling everything.
Oh, so it's Portal.
Yes.
But I mean, first and foremost, I should say, yes, it is cheap. It's at the moment 20% off, £5.75. So
okay.
Eddie prices. Yeah. Eddie prices. But
he's put some very replayable. I didn't know if it would be from the review that I saw. So I don't know whether Eddie knows something a bit different. So
it would be interesting. I mean, the one thing I will say is if you want to see sort of simple art style made to look great by lighting, this game is a really good example of that.
I think it looks really nice.
Yeah, the lighting is fantastic. The lighting is doing most of the heavy lifting, which if you're making a relatively cheap game, is a very good way of going. But it does look really good for what it is.
Yeah, for that price as well. Can't really go too far wrong.
Exactly, that is. I mean, 20% off kind of feels like a hat on a hat when it's £7.50 to start with.
Great hat on a hat.
Yeah, exactly. So, we also had The Spirit and the Mouse come to PC on September the 26th. It's a puzzle platformer where you're a mouse, in case that wasn't very obvious. And we also saw Dual Universe come to PC. Good week for PC games last week.
A lot of PC games.
On September 27th. Did I just cull the ones that were Switch? Maybe. It's possible.
I don't like that about you, but okay.
Dual Universe is a first-person sci-fi MMO built and driven by players in a single persistent universe shared by everyone. You can build almost anything out of voxels. Yeah, it says voxels. Doesn't tell you what they are.
Yeah.
Trade in a free economy.
I didn't know whether that was just a word that we need to know.
No. It just leaves that there. Yeah. Lead industries, travel through space, explore planets, or wage war in a fully editable sandbox universe. So it's a subscription-based MMO by the seams.
Well, is it though? Because Eddie's put a question mark there.
Damn it, Eddie.
runs on a subscription model? Question mark. That's not helped us.
Yeah, that doesn't help. Oh, mostly negative reviews though when I go to check.
To me, it looked quite basic, but a lot of these MMOs do, don't they? So if you're into your sci-fi MMOs, then this is just another one on the list for you to kind of check out. It looks like you can do a lot on it. Eddie said it reminds him of that game that he used to love, the Empyrean Galactic Survival game. That he talked about recently. It's like 5 years old or something, right? Yeah. But he really liked that. Now, I think this looks quite basic, but if you're into your sci-fi MMOs, could be for you.
Yeah, and that's it. And I mean, so voxels, they're literally like pixels in 3D. That's what they are, basically.
Oh, right, okay.
So I don't really get why that's a big selling point. But I'm sure I'm missing something.
But you can build almost anything, Pete.
Yeah, you can. I mean, basically, you're playing Roblox with a skin, then, aren't you?
Yeah. Let's go for that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think this is, if any of us, this is a game Eddie will play, so we may well hear a review in future.
Yeah.
That isn't the current Steam mostly negative ones. Awkward. Well, quite honestly, I think from that week we have to give it to Slime Rancher 2. It's absolutely storming it. It's doing brilliantly. It's definitely not a game for me, but I seem to be the one in the wrong in that regard.
Yeah, it looked at the games from last week. Slime Rancher 2 or Deerfield Chronicles, like the only two big ones, I suppose. So
yeah. It's like
Slime Rancher 2 it is.
2, yeah. And then moving on to the coming week, the actual new
releases. The current week. So now we're up to date. Now we're relevant.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and if people listen to this before they buy Deathverse Let It Die, will be spot on because that comes out on the same day as the release of this podcast. So, Deathverse Let It Die for PS4 in 2026. A seismic natural disaster known as the Earth's Rage sent the world into upheaval. Now, several hundred years later, the inhumanly violent survival reality show Death Jamboree was born to satiate the devastated human heart. Will you be the last one standing? Yeah, it's a battle royale. In case that wasn't
if you didn't
obvious.
Get that,
It's the Hunger Games. I mean,
Eddie's put some notes actually, and he would say it like that. He'd go, a silly little battle royale.
Yes, and
that's what he'd say.
I do like his additional note. Is I say that about Fortnite though. So we could be wrong. This isn't. It's not any of our type of games, though, is it?
No, it's not. And we saw this. I'm sure we saw this at a State of Play ages ago. I'm sure it opened up a State of Play ages ago, and at the time, I think we said, "Who is this appealing to?" Like, there are games that do this already. Like, what is the point of it? I'm not even sure whether this might be going free to play or something, because that's what. If you're releasing, I'm sure it must be, because if you're releasing a battle royale these days and it's not free to play,
yes,
that's just not going to work.
You would think not, wouldn't you? You would think.
No, we've seen some of the other PlayStation, especially when the PlayStation 5 came out. There was that All Stars game, the Destruction All Stars. What's it called? The one where you're driving the cars and stuff. Like, they seem perfectly nice, well-built games, but they just die a death. They have to go free to play. I'm not even sure if this has got a PS5 upgrade. I think it might just be like a PS4 base version. Like, I don't like. Are we completely wrong in just thinking, what the fuck is this about?
This is it, and I'm sure, like, the fact that it's only coming to PS4 now. Is this already out on PS5?
No, I think it will just be they haven't got a graphical enhancement for PS5.
Right, because I'm sure that we've seen this mentioned before, and I know
I'm sure it's just at that State of Play.
Later.
I think it's just at that State of Play that we saw it.
Okay.
I know it's entirely forgettable, so we could have seen it, I know what you mean, but I think this is just saying that there's not a PlayStation 5 enhanced version.
Right. Okay. Well, most people do still have PS4s, so go to town if that sounds like your type of thing.
Which is probably, but unconfirmed, free to play.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my god. Now, the second game coming out this week on September the 29th is one that I almost culled, Ben, and I kept in just because I thought it would make you happy.
Hang on a minute. No. Before you say what it is, I thought you were going to say is a potential winner for this week.
Oh, no, it's not, and I promise you that. Now you've given me the choice, it's definitely not. If you'd taken that on yourself, then maybe it'd be different. But
this looks wonderful. This game looks wonderful. Go. Yeah, go on.
This is Brewmaster, which is coming out literally everywhere, September 29th.
Of course it is.
Do you really want me to do the blurb? You do, don't you?
Absolutely, I'd love you to do the blurb.
You want me to commit to
I would love you. Yes, and give it a homely feel. Give it a nice homely feel to it.
I'm not a voice actor, Ben. But
but you must try. You must. You must.
Okay. Brew your perfect beer in this relaxing home brewing sim.
Lovely.
Using a realistic chemistry simulation to brew hoppy IPAs to creamy stouts. Customize your brewing space. Create recipes and label your beer. Unlock new equipment and enter competitions. Learn to brew, refine your craft, and become a brewmaster.
That's lovely. That was lovely. I enjoyed that.
There you go. Good direction.
Yeah.
Good work. Yes, this looks absolutely appalling to me, but
that's not what Eddie's notes say.
But Eddie's notes are quite positive, and I'm sure you can't wait to get your hands on this. So
yes.
Eddie's put that this actually looks quite deep. The UI is nice. Mm-hmm. I'll agree on the UI. Mm-hmm. He also likes the visuals. We'll come to that.
Yep.
And could really be quite fun, is what the thoughts of our departed member are. I'm sure you agree completely.
Departed?
At least for this week, he's departed. He's going away, isn't he? He's not back next week.
He's dead. He's dead to us.
Yeah, he's essentially dead to us for at least 2 weeks. So,
okay.
So yeah, I mean, I can see what he means. The UI is nice. It does look quite nice. It doesn't appeal to me at all, despite that. It does appeal to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it looks really nice.
Yeah,
I think it looks really nice. I think the visuals are great. I think it seems to be relaxing. Yeah, I think everything. If you like simulator games, that type of stuff, I think this could be brilliant. And I think it's probably going to cost about 15 quid or something, and it'll be nice. It'll be a wonderful time.
Is this one you're going to play? Because it seems like the ideal game for you.
This is pure Steam Deck for me, so I might play this depending on price, depending on what it comes down to, all of that kind of jazz. I'm interested.
I bet you are. Yeah, and I mean, you should be the perfect person to review it because you literally did brew beer at one point.
I did. We did have a brewery.
We did, yeah. So
yes,
yeah. So that look forward to that in the future.
Yes, there you go.
On the same day, September 29th, we also see Moonbreaker come to PC. This is the turn-based tabletop tactics game that we saw a bit of, well, we've seen a couple of times in recent months, with digital miniatures and set in a universe created by Brandon Sanderson, an author who I'm a fan of. Even so, I'm not going to get it.
No.
Was it in this?
Was it the state of... What event was it recent? Was it the State of Play that had this? Was it... What was it? A recent event? Because I remember we covered it and I went to you and was like, "Oh, are you interested?" The whole thing when Brandon Sanderson came on screen, I was like, "Oh, wow, Pete, you could be..." And then when they showed what it was... It's made by the same people who made Subnautica, so indeed. Good pedigree, but the whole look of it, though.
I know. I mean, there is obviously a big fan base for tabletop-style games and digital miniature styles. But I don't know anyone who's in it.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from people who are really hyped for this game. And I do think it's set up to be a very good example of the genre. But it's not one that... It just doesn't appeal. And actually, I was really disappointed to learn that the game Brandon Sanderson has mentioned offhand here and there for a couple of years is this one. So hopefully some positive reviews will change my mind on that. But I don't think I'm going to be jumping in.
I imagined you were going to say that, and it's not for any of us, I don't think so.
Yes, indeed. Also on September 29th, we see Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous come to PS4, Xbox and Switch. Embark on a journey to a realm overrun by demons in that new epic RPG from the creators of the critically acclaimed Pathfinder Kingmaker. Explore the nature of good and evil, learn the true cost of power, and rise as a mythic hero capable of deeds beyond mortal expectation.
This looks great.
Yeah, it does. I mean, Pathfinder Kingmaker is well regarded. It does look a bit. It's got a bit of the Baldur's Gate vibes, which you knew Eddie was going to like. I'm actually surprised if he hasn't played Kingmaker.
Yeah.
Because it is the sort of game he'd like. So
is this a new Pathfinder? Like, what is this DLC? What is this?
It's a new game. It's a sequel,
right? Because
or not.
So is it the first one that did? Is it the first one that did great? Because there are a lot of these types of games. Not gonna lie, there's a few on Game Pass, aren't there? Which are all very similar, and we've discussed them in the past and everything. And this is just another one.
Yes, it is. It's another one in that sort of Divinity, Baldur's Gate, that type of school of game. It's really well regarded. I mean, it's another one with mostly positive reviews on Steam, like thousands upon thousands of them. This is not a direct sequel, but they're clearly keeping the Pathfinder name, so there's got to be similarity. And yeah, if it's anything like the first one, it'll be a really good game.
Yeah, if it's, I think... Expect this if you're into those kind of isometric RPGs, Divinity / Baldur's Gate stuff, and that's your type of game. Expect this to be a game for you. Expect this to also be a 9 out of 10. I imagine. Yeah. Like, this is just going to be a banger.
Yes.
I think it's one of those where you almost guarantee it because it's made by writing, like, isn't it? Yeah. And they don't get it wrong. Like, there's people that do these games, like, they just fucking nail them.
Exactly. These are the spiritual successor, at least, to those choose your own adventure books. You know, the ones where it was like, turn to this page if you go here?
Yeah.
This is
absolutely.
Basically what they are, just in a system that works so much better for it. than a page.
Yeah.
And yeah, Pathfinder is supposedly a really good example to this. I've actually had Kingmaker on my wish list for like years, absolute years. It's just never come down quite enough for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I got distracted by Divinity 2 when I had that like decision to make.
Oh yeah, I've got Divinity 2 as well, but it's like I got it because it was really cheap, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
So I picked it up, but it's 100 hours of your life.
Oh god, yeah, I played it almost to completion, and it's a very long game. And
yeah,
these are
so
similar
it's a
size.
big old commitment. Yeah, these are the games though.
Yeah,
they're the types of games.
Exactly.
So
I should say just a quick shout out to Eddie for the most useful note of all time, which is £43 with an exclamation mark next to it.
yeah, see, I don't know what. Right, so this is coming out on on PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, right?
Yeah.
Why is he always so surprised? I mean, I look at £43 and I go, "Oh, that's actually a budget release." But he's going, "That's ridiculously expensive." Like, what does he expect?
Games to be the same price they were when he was 16, which was free because his parents bought them.
Yeah. And games, when he was 16, games even cost more. So, yeah, there we go.
Yes, indeed. Now, the second one that Eddie's given us a prize for also came out, or is coming out on September 29th, which is Valkyrie Elysium. Long ago, Ragnarok, the end times, loomed upon the realms. The All-Father Odin, with the last of his strength, created an emissary of redemption, Valkyrie, her sole task being the salvation of a doomed world. So this is a JRPG with Viking imagery, obviously. Looks a lot like Final Fantasy. And obviously, as you'd expect with this type of game, the visuals are really good. Eddie's main note on this, of course, is that it's £45. And then Ben with a question mark.
Yeah, I haven't got an awful lot to add. It's not my type of game.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people mentioning it on like Twitter. It looks incredibly generic to me, but if you're waiting on one of our opinions on this game to either sell you or otherwise, probably need to move on. I don't know enough about it, and I can't criticize or promote. Like, it's not for us.
Yes, indeed. Definitely not. And it's PS5, PS4, so it was only you who was going to play it then. Potentially.
Exactly. Not for me, though, so yeah.
There we go. Now, another one that needs no selling from us, but for very different reasons, comes out September 30th, and that is FIFA 23. And I'm not even going to bother with a blurb here because you don't need one. It's FIFA. And is this the last one with the name, or is the second to last?
That's a good point. I'm not sure.
Fair enough.
I don't want to speculate.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it's I watched somebody on Twitch yesterday. I turned. It was on the main page on Twitch. Somebody like playing FIFA. So I thought, okay, I'll have a watch. All they did for 15 minutes was open packs of players.
Oh my god!
And I just wanted them to play a game.
Yeah.
I thought surely at some point in a minute they'll play a game, and they're just opening packs and packs. I'm thinking, what the fuck? He had like 15,000 people watching him. I was like, what is happening?
Surely that gambling situation on Twitch is going to deal with that soon.
Well, I think that was linking to gambling sites, but you're right. Like, and what I was thinking was like, he's either put in a load of money to that game, or because he's a notable streamer, they've given him like in-game currency to buy it with. But like, just that is like, you're right about the gambling thing, right? Because it promotes people to also do that, like, because they see that as part of the game. And all I was thinking was, you're opening all of these packs and you're getting no good players. Like, you have to open about 25 packs to get one good player. Like, that's going to cost an absolute fucking fortune.
But you might get that pack first then. That's what they're getting you with.
You might, but it's a nonsense.
Yes, staggeringly low chances.
Eddie's comment though,
Eddie's wonderful comment for us. FIFA with women though. Which is a big plus. I mean,
so that was Eddie saying that's a plus. To anybody who wasn't sure. He was like, it was FIFA full stop women though. So exactly. That's a good positive thing, because I know they've had the international women's team before. I assume now they have club women's teams, which I think is fucking awesome.
You would think so, and given the success in this country, particularly the Euros, you would think it's the perfect time for them to do this. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm sure they have like the Super League and stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if they have like the second division of the Super League. I wonder if they've also got like the French league. Like, do they have Lyon? Like, I think Lyon are the best women's team in Europe, or they won the Champions League at some point. Like, I wonder how deep they've gone with it.
You
but
would
it's
think
not
they're going
something
to have the top 5 leagues, because the Barcelona women's team is also considered really.
Are
good.
they? Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That I'm probably not going to find out, because I'm probably never going to play this unless it comes onto EA Play and therefore Game Pass. Yeah, just probably not.
I'll
it's one of those
play
games
it in
that
2026 when it does come onto those
Yeah.
things, because I don't
it's
think
it's
they're
one of those
up to date.
games where I would actually quite like to play. I'd quite like to do Ultimate Team and all that. But then what would happen is I'd start losing, and it's just bollocks. And FIFA is also one of those games that I love it for the first 2 games, and then I get so bored by the gameplay. Like, we can tell when we have like a night round someone's house or something, we're playing FIFA, or if we're doing drinking games, FIFA to start with. Like, I'll play a couple of games, I'll be really into it, I'll play really well, and then my attention span just drops off a fucking cliff.
Yes, yeah.
I cannot be asked to FIFA after a couple of games.
Yeah, that's it. It's mostly fun with your mates. I still believe. And
That's
any
it,
other
yeah.
times it's not. But the new one is out in a few days. So
Yes, and early access has already started, so you can get it 5 days early.
Yeah.
September 30th. I'm pretty sure it came out. That date doesn't sound right, but anyway, you can get it 5 days early if you pre-order it and all that kind of stuff. So
'cause
I don't know when it
does
gets.
say
I
it's
assume it's
selling
already
on
out.
Steam, but September 30th was the date they gave.
That's the date in the doc. I thought it came out on yesterday,
Okay,
but who knows? FIFA is out or just about to be out.
wonderful. yeah. It's still in the catchment of last weekend this week. Either way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
we're not wrong.
Yeah, the final one to speak about here is Overwatch 2, which is coming out on literally everything on October the 4th.
Yeah.
Now, I also don't feel we really need to give a blurb for Overwatch.
No.
It's a 6-person team shooter. It's the new
Hero
version.
shooter. I think.
Exactly,
I think
yeah.
they call it a hero shooter.
Of course they would, yes, because of your unique cast of heroes. I don't care about Overwatch at all.
No, nor do I.
Yeah.
But I think there's a campaign coming sometime in the future.
Oh, well, good.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that may or may not be true.
We're doing a good job.
I believe there is people. I've heard people be quite critical of Overwatch 2 as when the people have been playing their betas or something like that. It's not something we follow closely, so we're not giving an awful lot of information here. But I think there's a campaign. I think Overwatch 2 has been criticised a bit in the past. I think it's more like Overwatch 1.5, but who knows?
Yeah.
If you're into Overwatch, then I'm sure you already know all about it anyway, so you don't need us kind of fumbling our way through on it.
Exactly. That's kind of my thinking as well. The player base for this game is established enough that
Yes, absolutely.
they're either getting it or not.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's a monster. If you're into Overwatch, you're into Overwatch.
Yes.
Like, that's what you do. So, yeah,
And as
fair play.
for pick of the week, I'm actually going to give it to Pathfinder.
I thought you were going to say I'm actually going to give it to Brewmaster.
I know you
after all
did,
of that.
but I'm not. I'm actually going to give it to Pathfinder because I think that could be an excellent, excellent game. And
I think it kind of has to go to Pathfinder. Like, I think actually the options. I know we had quite a few there, but
you're not going to give
probably
it to the
was
big
the-
two. So it's gotta be
Pathfinder's
Pathfinder.
always going to be a banger as well.
Yeah.
Pathfinder is always going to be, as I said, a 9 or more.
If you
out of
like
10.
that type
you
of
just
games,
know it.
they're not going to miss. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep. All right then. Them's the new releases.
Yes, indeed. And we're on to what we've been playing, which I'll let you kick off with because we've got quite a few to go with, haven't we?
Oh, yes. Okay, well, as we mentioned earlier, I have been playing a lot of Splatoon 3, so it continues to be fucking awesome. I've played 45 hours of it so far in the last couple of weeks. It's the best multiplayer game on the Switch, I think, by far, in my opinion. I think it's just, yeah. If you have any inclination at all that you might like Splatoon, do yourself a favour and buy it because it's so good. Like, the multiplayer is absolutely fantastic, and it's so tactical. I'm sure people, when they hear about Splatoon, when they hear about what it is and painting and all this kind of stuff, people will just write it off. But it is so tactical, It is so strategic, and it is so skill based. It's absolutely brilliant. So, and this last weekend was something called Splatfest. So Splatoon's a bit of a live service game, and they do these every couple of months or something. They do these Splatfests where it's a weekend where you choose a team. For that weekend, you're on that team, and unfortunately, you're limited to just the one game mode. So all the ranked games and everything goes out the window. You just play Turf War, which is the game mode which everyone talks about, the one which you just go in and see who can paint the most floor on the ground of the map in a particular game, and you can splat the other team, so it's like a kill, so it takes them out the game for a few seconds or whatever. Yeah. So there are tactics to it, and it is actually a lot of the pro Splatoon tournaments do actually have Turf War in them and stuff like that. So, but it is the unranked mode. I don't usually play that mode. I don't usually play Turf War because I don't really see as much point playing the non-ranked stuff.
What's the normal mode for you again? What's the one you like most?
The one that I like most is called Clan Blitz.
Yes. Yeah.
That's my favourite mode. So that one is more like a sports game. It's where you're trying to score points through the other team's goal, but you have to do something initially to open up their goal, and then you can score points through additional points through their goal, and that's tactical. So I play that all the time if I could, and I don't really play the unranked stuff. But when you listen to other podcasts and when people are talking on Twitter and all that kind of stuff, generally they're talking about Turf War, which I've got no problem with, because in Splatoon 2 I played tens and tens of hours of Turf War. Yeah. It's just kind of what you play, but now I find it really hard. But you spend this whole weekend earning points for your team, and then during Splatfest you do actually earn quite a few items that you can't earn otherwise, and it allows you to upgrade your equipment in different ways and stuff like that. So it is actually quite good in the end. So there is a point to it. It's just annoying that I couldn't play ranked this whole weekend. Yeah. So my rank is, I'm just off A- now. So as I said last week, I think it goes like minus, then the letter, then the plus. So C minus, C, C plus, all the way through to A and then to S. And then when you get to S plus, it goes from 1 to 50.
Oh, wow.
So you can go S plus 50. I think that's the top rank, which I think some people were already at or approaching. So yeah, they're absolute bosses. Yeah. But I am just off A minus, and I am working my way slowly up. But it is a risk reward in the ranked, because you basically bet your ranking points by playing one of two modes. So anyway, it's a risk reward. But my biggest gripe with the game, as just alluded to, is not being able to play the game modes that you like most of all the time. Yeah. And Splatoon has always fucking done this. In the last game, the limited salmon run. So that's a common mode that a lot of people like to play, and I like to play a lot of it as well. They used to limit it to times of the day or days of the week you could play it. Now they've opened it up all the time. Yeah. But they still do this with the ranked. So if you go into ranked Splatoon, you play something called Anarchy. And you either do open or you do series. And in open, in 2-hour window slots, they have particular versions. So the Clan Blitz that I mentioned earlier, they have Rainmaker, they have Splat Zones. Yep. So there's I think there's 4 game modes that it will rotate. And they'll do that in opens and they'll do that in series. They're the 2 ranked modes, and they'll have different ones in each. But it limits you what you could play. So earlier, I was going to do something else, but then I was like, oh, right, Clan Blitz is in Anarchy Opens right now for the next 2 hours, so I'll play. Yeah. So it kind of dictates the time you want to play.
It's a strange method of controlling it, isn't it? But I suppose what they're trying to do is increase demand by limiting access.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I think it's 2 things. I think one thing, like you've just mentioned, it almost retains your interest. Yeah. Because of the limitations on when you can do stuff. So you're like, oh, right, check Splatoon, right, I'm going to play now or whatever. Yeah. But it also it forces that you kind of try new things.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it makes you get used to all these game modes, because there's only one rank. On the previous Splatoon, every individual ranked game type had a ranking to it. So I actually never played Clan Blitz before this game. I played it once or twice, and I was just like, nah, I'm shit at this. And move on. but now it's my favorite game mode. So it's kind of forcing you to do it. The reason they do it, I'm sure, is trying to control the flow.
Yeah.
So Splatoon is, in my opinion, a rip-roaring success which is in contrary to all other recent Nintendo Online releases, because the amount of content is fucking phenomenal. Like, there are so many different things you can play, so many different game modes, blah, blah, blah. But it limits it, I think, to keep the lobbies full. And I think at the moment it wouldn't be a problem. But let's just say 2 years' time, they don't want to then start cutting things down and enforcing time limits then, because then it wouldn't feel right. So they just do it from day one, I suppose, because they're trying to make sure that everything is full all of the time. And it's probably a comment on the fact that there is so much content that they have to limit you.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I can think of. But this is the fastest selling game of all time in Japan. Like, it's the fastest selling game of all time. No matter Nintendo platform or otherwise, it's just the fastest selling game. So it's got such a player base. I would just like them to open it up a little bit more, you know?
Yeah.
But it turns it into this live service game. It retains interest. It's not all bad. It's just what Splatoon does, and it's just another thing where you're just cutting Nintendo slack.
Yeah.
You're like, it's not so bad.
I mean, we do notice you cutting the slack, but yes, it is understandable. And I suppose the thing here is, if you're playing 45 hours in 2 weeks, you're loving it. Like, that's a really good game.
Yeah. I do fucking love it though. Yeah. So yeah. I am all in. Like, it's so fun, and you can't feel bad playing it.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. I have a TV show on in the background. I just at the same time, it's wonderful for that.
Yeah,
wonderful. But
one of the better ways to play anything.
Yes.
Now I'm going to talk a lot about something I watched instead, which we've already discussed. But to start with, I feel we should talk about World of Warcraft a little bit, because I have still been playing it.
Yeah.
And because yesterday, 26th of September at 11 p.m, was the launch for Wrath of the Lich King Classic. That was the actual launch. Everything until then has been the pre-launch patch. And so suddenly you had, on my server alone, 20,000 players trying to get on 2 boats. Basically. Now, this really did hit some nostalgia for me, because obviously everything crashed. And you went, this is just like 2008 all over again.
Yeah, I bet.
And then they realised that the boats themselves were causing a problem, so they just allowed you to teleport there. And then 20,000 players are in 2 very small regions, and it crashes. And there were a couple there where you had world server down come up, and you just could not log back on to your character at any point. And it was, in many ways, honestly, actually genuinely funny, because you were like, this is exactly what happens every time. And even after nearly 20 years, they still can't fix this. Like, They can't stop it happening. I don't think there's a big enough server farm in the world for them to stop it happening. You know what I mean? So that was, very nostalgic and very amusing at the same time. But the amount of griefing that comes out of it is insane. Like, people kick off so fast. And it's like, guys, this will run for 2 years. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Chill out. The first raid, which you're all so hyper about, doesn't release for 2 weeks. Losing the first evening doesn't matter when you're going to do all the leveling.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like, calm. Just be calm.
And also, this happens to so many games, doesn't it? Yeah. Because they don't want to. They know it's going to have a massive drop off because everyone wants to play their day one, but then everyone kind of levels out when they can play and stuff. So
exactly, and
that's just.
It's going to be crowded at launch time, and it's probably not the best time to go, unless you're one of those people going for a realm first. And to be fair, I did see a realm first pop about half an hour later, and that was for one of the professions already at max within half an hour. So that is some serious teamwork to do that. That's not one guy, even though they get the award. He's had some help. Mm-hmm. They've had some help. But it was mad. Like, there's so many people, and every time you try and log on now, it is packed, like, beyond what it was before. It's almost too difficult to do half the quests. So it's almost to the denigration of the game. There's too many people.
Yeah.
So let's hope it does calm down.
Yeah, maybe that's surely gonna. Well, thing is, if you're in day one, you are probably committed to the bit on this.
Yeah, although I think a lot of people will have joined it for day one, and then possibly will go, actually, I'm not too bothered.
Yeah, okay. The nostalgia hasn't hit as much as...
Yeah, or they're just like, actually, it's a lot of effort. Because you've got to remember, there were all sorts of bonuses given to you in the last few weeks to get ready for it. And they've all now been withdrawn. So leveling one level of the 10 you've got to do is basically going to take you a substantial amount of time. Whereas the previous 70 were much, much quicker.
Of course.
So
yes,
that is... I mean, that's already been a significant problem for me, but it's not going to stop me playing on for a bit. But I think there will be quite a few people who drop out because of that fact. And I think there will be definitely people who drop out because they realise the community is not what it was. People have optimised so much that now... I mean, I saw this on general channels today. People saying they've been kicked from dungeon groups for not having best-in-slot gear at level 70. Like, you're not at max level, guys. You're facing stuff you can take on several levels lower.
Yeah.
You don't need full PvP level 70 gear to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't get why that would happen, but it has apparently been a thing. And it's because people in the community are so good at optimizing now that if you don't, you're not worth their time. Which is a bit disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fortunately, much like me, if you find a decent guild and you make a few friends as you're playing it, you're fine. You'll have a good time.
That's the thing. That's what this game's all about, though, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And you'll have a good time and you'll have fun with it. So I still am. Yeah. So that's kind of where I want to leave it. But that was the main thing, was just launch was hilarious. With a game that's 18 years old, still couldn't be controlled properly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's just what happens. We know that happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you expect nothing else, and if it delivers, you're like, yeah, okay, this is amazing. Okay, well, I'm sure we'll pick up that next week when you've had more time with it. So we'll pick it up then. I have been playing Return to Monkey Island.
Indeed.
So we got a code for this, which was nice. So thank you very much. I haven't played any of the previous ones. So this was me going in.
But yeah.
Yeah, this was me actually going in pretty much first time. And, so I had no preconceptions. I liked the art style in those trailers and stuff before. And the negative press that it was getting, I never really fully understood because I didn't have nostalgia for the earlier ones and all that kind of stuff. So,
yes.
That was fine with me. I think the art style is really nice. Really, really nice. I'm playing it on the Switch. So it does kind of pop nicely on the OLED there. It's nice. I've also been playing it on monitor as well. So again, pops. Yeah. So it's good. Yeah. They do a funny, nice little recap of all, I presume, the previous stories, previous games. Yeah. So they do a nice recap, and it kind of brings you into the spirit of it very nicely. And it kind of, you point and click your way through those little story recaps, so it's quite good. Yeah. But the game itself is a point and click game. Yes. So you figure out where items are, you walk around, you pick up various things from different places, speak to people in the correct order, do the right kind of say the right sentences at the particular times. It's the standard point and click stuff that you get with many other games of this kind of type, but actually they're just not as common now.
They really
they rose to prominence during like the early gaming PC days, like the games that were on PC, right?
Yeah, it's things like Myst and the original Monkey Island.
Yeah, and even going to like Discworld and stuff like that, like they're that type of game. So I suppose, the thing that
hold on. So one of my major questions is: do you think the writing and the humour is up to speed? Because that was obviously what made the first game a triumph.
So you need to say that entirely again, because the listeners won't know that we're experiencing some audio issues here between each other.
Yes, Discord is going mad. Yes,
and literally, like when you said your question, it just cut out through all of that.
Fantastic. Okay, and you do still sound like a robot, as you have done for an hour.
Yeah, but on the recording, what people listen to will be absolutely perfect. So, yeah.
So the sacrifices we make. No, what I was saying was,
Yes.
do you think the writing and the humour are up there? Because they were obviously the main triumph of the first game.
You're literally not going to believe this.
Blanked again?
I can't. It blanked again.
Okay.
Yeah, it literally blanked again.
Humour and writing, then. Are they good?
Yes, right. Yeah, I'm sure you are right. I'm sure you probably just said that's what made it.
Yes.
The thing that I've taken from this straight away is that good quality writing wins the day.
Yeah.
I've actually laughed out loud.
Yeah,
I mean,
nice.
On my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is something like, I don't know whether, like, I'd be interested to know whether you do, whether anyone listening does. Like, laughing out loud on your own is a rare thing. Even when I find things really funny, I go like,
yeah.
like, that's about the most, like, when you're around people, like, it's easier to laugh. But
laughing's a
I don't know,
social
like,
thing, isn't it? It's
yeah, exactly. That's the purpose it serves. Like, almost like there is something to it. But yeah, the humor is, it's good. It hits it. Like, you have to go in with that kind of expectation, like that. This isn't a big game. This is just like a nice game. You're going in to have a nice, enjoyable time. You're not going to rush it through. It's that type of stuff. Like, you've got to want to be there. There's even stuff in the settings where you can turn on. Like, this made me laugh as well. It's got something like turn on long-winded, like, boring stuff, like the dialogue, and it even gives you a warning, like, this makes the dialogue a bit long-winded and boring.
Yeah.
But if you're fully into it, like, I don't know, like, it's very self-aware, and that's what does it. But it's not overly so. You know, some games try to be too funny. We criticized, like, Forspoken recently, not trying to be funny, but the way that it was, like, almost self-aware of its own commentary type stuff.
God,
do you remember on that trailer?
That trailer was painful.
This is self-aware in a different way, and it's just funny. But there's a lot of, you talk about nostalgia, there's a lot of that going on, and, like, references to previous games and lore, I think that fans will be really happy with. I think if you like the last games, or you played them years ago, like, this is gonna hit the nail on the head for you. For me, like, I was in, as soon as I realised the Nemesis was a fucking ghost pirate, I was like, yeah, okay. Okay. We're taking our time with this one, boy. But there are puzzles. As I said, you got to talk to people in the right thing. You got to get the right items. You got to do that type of stuff. Like, and I heard from watching reviews that you should play this on, like, there's two difficulties, like a casual and a harder one. Right. You should play it on that one. So I'm doing that. But there's also a hint system in the form of a book, where if you get really stuck, you can just look at that and it will kind of really point you into the direction eventually when you go through it. But overall, I'll complete this. Obviously, I've only given it a little bit of time, so I can't really go too much into it. But it is a funny, palate cleansing game while I play my shit tons of Splatoon, while I'm also playing RPGs like Cyberpunk. Yes. It's a funny game. So I'm enjoying what it is. It's a feel good game. It really is. But I'll talk more about that next week. But the other one I've been playing is obviously Cyberpunk, like we just mentioned.
And this is also the thing I've been waiting to talk about, because obviously we're going to cover Edgerunners here too. So do we want to start with the game or the show? Yeah,
we'll start with the game, and then obviously we're going to go into Edgerunners. Yes. So I've been continuing to play. I'm 15 hours in, so I'm not absolutely hammering it because I've got a lot of Splatoon to play. Yeah. But I'm 15 hours in. The world is still fucking fantastic, isn't it? The characters are awesome. I started this a couple of weeks ago, and then the kind of Twitter build-up of everyone playing it, I was like, wow, this is it's awesome. Everyone's actually playing it. I see a lot of stuff on Twitter saying, oh, now the game that is actually like the game that we wanted, or the game that's been, almost like the game now is amazing, but it was shit before. Yeah. Like, it's never quite been like that. Like, for me personally, as soon as they fixed the crashing issue on the PS5, it has been, it was playable. I loved it on day one, and I I almost feel a little bit annoyed. I won't ever post on Twitch about it, but I almost feel a little bit annoyed. It's like that if you say something like that, or where people do say, yeah, but it was playable at the start, and people are like, oh yeah, but they've done so many updates. But you're just defending it. No, don't take away the fact that I really enjoyed something.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, there are a lot of people out there, ourselves included, who will call this a banger from the beginning. Like, yes, it had issues.
Yes.
So many games do. Like, Skyrim was a banger, but it still had issues. It still has bugs even now.
Absolutely.
To this day.
Absolutely. And yes, and people say that, people point to the police, because this isn't the overhaul that everyone's talking about. Like, this latest update or whatever, the Edgerunners update, like, yeah, I think the police have been improved and the driving and stuff like that. Like, I remember the driving not being great. I remember the police like just being like on the scene really quickly and shit like that.
Yes.
But not like, but when people point to that as like these massive overhaul stuff, it's like, no, like, again, like, if you think the game is now so much better, now it's playable and before it wasn't, I'm not talking about the older consoles, not talking about that, then absolutely fair enough, that's fair enough. But I thought it was great then, I thought it's great now. So that was my experience, and just because I feel like that doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not wrong because I feel that way. But yeah, it's great. The running and the shooting always seemed a bit janky to me. Oh, Christ on a bike. Sometimes that is a bit weird, but yeah, okay. But the world in this game is everything to me, and that's what we're going to move on to in the anime. I don't think a game has ever sold the world to me as hard as this one. And I know the big thing we've talked about many times on this podcast is that the world doesn't feel, when you go outside of the quest line, to me it doesn't feel that alive. Yeah. I still think there's that criticism now, but the whole world of the game, I don't think I've ever played anything that sold itself so well to me.
Yeah, it's well, this is the thing. I think it's one of the triumphs of CD Projekt Red, because The Witcher had a similar thing of, it feels like it could be a functioning world. Now, yes, there's uncanny valley effects, and yes, it doesn't quite work when you go away from the storyline for too long, but it's definitely something they do brilliantly. And I think, I went back to Cyberpunk the first time I replayed it just to drive around the place again, because I quite like doing it. That tells you something straight away. That's almost turning it into a roomy game.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's your equivalent. Yeah. But they've changed things. They've changed quite a few things, and I know they have, and I know they've improved things. And it's almost like I liken this in my head to, if I played The Last of Us Part 1 remake right now, to me it would look the same way that my mind replays The Last of Us in my head. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like older games, because you remember when you played them that you felt they looked awesome. When you play a remake, you go, oh, that looks the same. And it's only when you see them side by side that they don't. It's the same thing now. Like, I replay Cyberpunk and I go, yeah, the driving. And I go, oh, is this a lot better? Like, oh, okay, right. Because I don't remember it being, like, horrendous. But I think it was.
I tell you what, I've never used a car. I got Jackie's bike and that was it.
Yeah, you need a bike, right?
A bike's just so much more flexible if you want to speed through
traffic
lights all the time.
I'm still got a car, so yeah, that's unfortunate. It is unfortunate. And the legendary Mantis blades that you could get like really pretty much right at the start of the game, they've changed location.
Yes,
I don't know if you remember that.
I think that's why. Is because people like us could find out where they were and get them way sooner. Yeah,
we got that. So I had to, like a noob, buy Mantis blades. No. Anyway, I know, I hated it. But okay, let's talk about the show, because the main reason loads of people are playing this game is because of the anime on Netflix now. So talk about that.
Exactly, and I suppose this is the thing, because both of us have already watched it all in full, and we had done a week ago. I don't even know where to start, really. It's an excellent show. It's a really good show. I think you can really tell the maker's mark on this, because did they do Kill la Kill before? I think it was something like that. And that was also in a similar style. But it works perfectly with Cyberpunk as a world. It's brutal, it's really edgy, it's very dark, and it's very unforgiving. So the pace starts out pretty high and does not slow down. You see characters dying at a rate of knots, like named characters.
Game of Thrones style.
If anything,
Game of Thrones
slightly quicker. At least to work through, at least proportionally against how many characters are in it. You know what I mean? And it nails all the key themes of a cyberpunk world. Body modding and the risks of it. Obviously, cyberware is a huge part of this whole show. It then starts to dive into questions of corporate ownership and sort of the empty nature of life there, and how badly affecting things like nepotism can be. And then, obviously, as all the good ones of these do, it goes into found family quite a lot, doesn't it? And I'm trying to do this without going too deep into spoilers, even though I want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But David, who's your main character, his story does include quite a few references to characters you'll see in game. I loved it when Wakako's voice comes on.
Mm-hmm.
Loved that. Thought
good
that was
game
a
reference.
Great note. And I think using the what are they called? The guys who give you jobs.
Voice actors.
Huh?
Oh right, the gig, the fixes.
Fixes. Thank you. My God, that was annoying. You can tell I haven't played the game since December. Yeah. Using fixes, I think, was quite a good way to do it, because everyone who's involved as a cyberpunk would know the same fixes, wouldn't they? So I thought that was a really cool way to tie things together.
That was a really cool thing.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
And there's, without any spoilers, there's a point in it where you start to realise how things might end, and yet that does nothing to spoil it for you when you're watching, which I think is something that can happen in quite a bad way in these type of shows. Is like, you see what's coming and you go, oh, well, there's no point. This one, even if you do spot what's coming, it doesn't change it anyway. You really want to see what happens. And I think that is a really good sign for a show.
Yes. Yeah. I get the feeling with this, the one thing that I'd say that it's quite, I don't know how it would feel like if you haven't played the game. For me, it was actually quite explanatory. It helped explain more of the world than the game ever did. Not than the game ever did. On top of what the game did. But I don't know if you weren't invested through the game originally, how the effect would be. Obviously, it's done wonderfully because people were playing the game off the back of it. So, but I actually found it, and I actually find this with other animes. Like, you've previously talked about the League of Legends one, haven't you?
Yeah. Arcane is.
And I actually found, Arcane. I actually found that I have to watch this. Like, I couldn't do anything else when I was doing it. I had to watch the whole thing because else you'd lose plot points, and it does this thing where it kind of just moves forward on particular storylines or something, and you're like, oh, did that happen? What happened? Like, is that the person? And you kind of like questioning yourself for a moment. So you've got to pay attention throughout, which is my only gripe, I suppose. But maybe that's a positive thing.
This was mine as well. And at the beginning, I was a little bit annoyed by it. And by the end, I'd kind of gone, actually, I don't think it's a bad thing. So there are a few bits where things you'd expect to be major story beats, if this were like a 10-season thing, are just done. They're just there, and it's like, okay, that's established. And they don't waste any time on it. Extraneous things that they go like, no, we just need you to know that this happened. That's the way they deliver it. Is just, it's happened. And you're like, at the beginning I found it a bit jarring, but then I realised it's, at least this story isn't going to be a 10-season story. And you go, okay, no, it makes sense with that context. Whereas before, you were just like, whoa, they really jumped without being pushed into that one. Okay.
It's also parts of the story which you probably knew how they would pan out, and it's not made you watch it.
Exactly, yeah. It's none of them are the key core concepts, as it were. So I think actually it is intentional, and I think it works well, but it took me a little while to get used to. Let's
absolutely.
put it that way. Now,
so I was going to say the actual length of it, is it 10 episodes and they're all about 22 minutes each?
I think so, yeah.
So yeah, it's actually watchable in one sitting if you wanted to. I split it out because it is quite high octane.
Yeah, very much so. I had to do it I had to take a little gap.
It increases in its it increases the pace as you go through. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's got a very. I mean, I like the cast of characters a lot. I think they did them well.
Yes.
And I think you do start to root for the main characters quite early on, which is a good sign. Both for the
Who's your favourite character?
Favourite character overall is probably Lucy, but Maine is pretty close.
Mine as well.
Maine is pretty close up there.
Lucy was my favourite character as well.
That's the female protagonist. I get that.
Yes, I also liked the Netrunner. What's her name?
Kiwi?
Sorry. Yes, Kiwi. I like Kiwi.
I also, but again, Maine, who is the leader of the crew, as it were, I think he's brilliantly done. I think he's really good. So, and I actually also really like the one, I think they're just called Doc. They never give him an actual name. He's a complete nut job, and for that, he's a great character to have. But he is so different from the Ripper Docs you have in the game as well, because you think V's main one, his friend, is such a homey character, and then you see this one, you're like, oh, that's a change up. He is a very different man. So I liked that variation, and I suppose that does more to sort of expand on the world as well. Now, I did also want to reference the fact that Eddie left us some notes because he looked at this as well. And one of them I completely agree with, which is that the music is pretty damn good. And I don't know about you, Ben, but I was a bit doubtful about Franz Ferdinand being the theme song for an anime. But it actually, it works.
I just heard there. I don't know about you, Ben, for an anime. I assume you're talking about like the actual characters and the character models.
No, not at all. I'm talking music, Ben.
Oh, the music, right? Okay. Now this is the problem with our audio. Yeah. Like, it's crazy. Like, we've never had this on Discord where it's just randomly cutting out, and I'm getting cutouts for like, if you're saying sentences, I am getting like partial sentences.
Yeah.
Like, but the music. Oh Christ, yeah, the music is wonderful. I think the music is absolutely fantastic. Like, I'm actually listening to the soundtrack daily.
Nice. Yeah, I can see that.
I am. It's so good. And one of the things on the show is that it is actually quite emotional.
Yes.
I never expected it to actually be emotionally gripping, and the music does actually kind of. It stirs that up again. It's brilliant. Hugely. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the biggest triumphs of the game for me as well, was the soundtrack to it. So I think that the fact they've done just as well, if not slightly better, in the anime, really works for it. And I'm pretty sure it drew people in to play the game as well, and they won't be disappointed because that also has an amazing soundtrack. But just to carry on with Eddie's final notes on this, because I think he only watched the first episode or two. We've got, to be fair, this story is pretty enticing, which is a good sign. After one. And then starts with a man with traps the size of most people's torso. Which, I mean, it's an anime. What do you expect? It's also in Cyberpunk.
Yes, yeah. Eddie's not an anime fan.
He's not. No.
But yes, that is anime.
Yeah, and if you're wanting to watch this type of thing, expect it to be over the top. Expect everything to be sort of vibrant and in your face, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it very much is. But by the looks of it, that means all three of us approve of it from what they've seen.
Yes. And I do think that it's got really, really great reviews so far. Like, I haven't heard a bad word said about it. I really have not. And obviously that's had a knock-on effect to people playing the game. So yeah, Netflix, you can catch it all now. I think it gets a thumbs up from the Grumpy Gamers Pod.
Massively so, yeah. And yeah, its reviews everywhere are really, really high. It's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, you know.
There you go. There you go.
Go check it out. So,
very wonderful.
Yes, indeed. So I do feel it's time we moved on to our feature. Yes, if you can hear me. Which
I'm sure. I'm hoping to make this. We're trying to make this as natural as possible.
Yes.
It's a dodgy one, but yeah, I will. Yeah, but we can talk about EGX.
We're going to talk about EGX, which of course was last weekend in London, and myself, Eddie, and Kirk all went to it. The intent was for all three of us to be here to talk about it, but things have gone awry, as they so often do. So, I suppose the best option for us, Ben, is for you to ask me questions. Yeah?
Yep, that's fine. Yeah. That's fine.
Because of course, normally you'd have joined us.
Yes, yeah. Normally I would, and I have done I think we've gone to EGX like last 3 years or something. Last 3 years it's been on anyway. I think there was a gap of 1 year or something, wasn't there? But last year was a bit. It was just a bit low on kind of people turning up, as well as developers and publishers and that type of stuff. There wasn't as big stuff going on, big games. So, how was it? Are we back to pre-pandemic levels where we can go to gaming conventions and have a great time now?
Well, I think I can conclusively say yes to that. Hugely so. So the space itself was probably 30-40% bigger than last year.
Yeah. Okay.
And even with that, it felt much more crowded. And I mean significantly more crowded. At certain points, actually, it annoyed me just how crowded it was. Obviously they have the game development section, and they have like the careers center where people are talking about industry jobs. And then they start to have the stands for the bigger games. And then on the other side, they have the stalls where you can buy merchandise and all sorts of stuff like this. And in that merchandise area, it was actually quite difficult to move. Like, significantly difficult to move through on the Saturday.
Really?
Yeah,
really? Okay.
I mean, if you wanted to get to some of the stands, you were queuing. And that wasn't one of the big games.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was the only bit where I kind of, as we weaved our way through to see what was on display, you were like, oh my God, maybe we should come back later. And the other thing we should definitely talk about being more of was cosplayers. Because they were definitely there last year and they've been there every time, but I've never seen as many as we did this time. Including, actually, some people dressed in full Cyberpunk gear just roaming around. Including a guy who was dressed as an Arasaka security person with a rainbow lightsaber-esque katana.
Wow.
I mean, the only thing we had was under that, he had the full helmet on with like a bullet mask. And you were just there like, okay, you're not here looking at stuff because you can't see a thing. So you are literally just here to stride around looking badass. And I quite like that. So yeah, it was so busy, it was almost difficult to watch people playing some of the games as well.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. I think.
Yeah,
that's good to hear.
In terms of a return to normality, definitely.
It is. Yeah, it is good. I actually prefer like the smaller rezzed events, which I think are now moving to kind of EGX Birmingham or something like that. So
we'll come to this because both me and Eddie had that thought, but it's not so much about how many people were there. But
yeah. I think so. Off the back of that, then, because there are loads of people, big games. What big games were there?
Yeah, I mean, quite a lot. But the obvious ones were Modern Warfare 2, which had a queue that lapped its stand. And then beyond that, we also had. There we go. I thought we lost you, and then I was like, "Do I just carry on?" Yes, I can.
I was trying to see whether that improved the connectivity by me jumping off and then jumping back.
Fantastic.
But
thanks for the.
No, my internet connection's fine. It's just not. I thought I could just do that in the background. You wouldn't ever know.
Thanks
but yeah,
for the heads
fine.
up as well. That's good.
Fine,
stuff. Yes.
Fine.
When there's two
you
of
could
us,
just talk away.
No, so we had.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, big games.
So we had Modern Warfare 2, which I've just talked about.
Yep.
We had Wulong had a massive area.
There was a demo for that on PlayStation for a week-long demo like last week.
Yeah, well,
and the Modern War, and none of us played the Modern Warfare 2 beta. No. That was this weekend. I'm not sure if it was just PlayStation it was on. It was an open beta, but I think it was. I don't know if it was on other systems as well, but none of us played that. But yeah, that was obviously there then as well.
It was, yeah. And then, Wulong, which had a huge queue as well. The problem with all of these is you can't see inside, so you have no idea what they're doing in there, what you can play. I mean, I'd be a bit disappointed if it's the same demo that was out last week, but you never know unless you take the 2+ hour queue to get in there. And there was also a big section for Sonic Frontiers. Those were the three big ones, as it were. But beyond that, there were also like larger than normal areas for House Stripper 2, Goat Simulator 3, and Disco Elysium.
Why was Disco Elysium there?
I'm not sure. I think it was the final cut, like just pushing it again and again.
Yeah, but that's been out for ages. And who's sitting down to a lovely demo of Disco Elysium?
Yeah, when you can get the whole game on sale quite often. So that one was a bit
I can understand
strange.
Goat Simulator 3 and House Flipper 2, but I mean, I have heard a lot of good reports on Sonic Frontiers, but I bet the queue was mind-boggling.
Yes, and so this is the thing, is all three of the biggest ones, the queue was almost the entire way round itself. So you'd see people joining the start of this queue almost 5 feet away from where people were going into the thing, and then going all the way around a 30-foot square before they'd get in.
Thing is, when you're there for one day, like, if you're there for multiple days, but also multiple days, I don't think there's enough stuff to do multiple days unless you're queuing up for these massive games. Yeah. Sonic comes out in 6 weeks, something like that, so... Even if I was there, if I could see people playing it, I'd be content with that. Could you see the screen at all, or was it so far away?
No, that's what I mean. So, obviously with the smaller games you can't, but with the ones, with Modern Warfare, Wulong and Sonic, they are literally walled in. You can't see a thing inside.
Yeah.
So that is always disappointing for me. And it is one of the reasons that me and Eddie actually both said we'd rather be at Rezzed. Because the good side of this was there were loads and loads of smaller games that you could just jump on, and people were filtering in and out of those at a much quicker rate.
Ah, yes, okay.
So, for instance, I know Eddie would have talked about Door Kickers, the second one, which we talked about a few weeks ago, in which he played the first one off. He really liked that one. He liked the look of it a lot. He played Road Warden as well, which looked great to me, but we didn't talk too much about.
What was that about?
Road Warden. It's I don't even know how to describe it. It's sort of...
How does the internet describe it?
That's kind of what I'm trying to think about. I mean, it's a text-based RPG is the easiest way to put it. But how do you do... Hand-drawn, illustrated hand-drawn doesn't sound quite right, but I'm going to have to go with it.
Oh, is this the one from a couple of weeks ago that Eddie fucking loved to look at?
Yes, exactly that.
Oh, that was the one in the new release. Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay, so, he actually...
Yeah, same as Door Kickers. It was 2 games that he's liked the look of, and they were both there for him to jump on.
Of course it was, yeah.
And likewise for me, there was Alliance of the Sacred Sons, which we talked about a little while ago. And it was there to play, and it's got to be said, I quite enjoyed it. Although I sat there with people watching over my shoulder going, there's a steep learning curve on this, and I'm not going to pick it up in a 20-minute session.
It's tough. Like, I quite like walking around and watching people play. I don't need to play myself. Like, the only one that I've actually got a good feel for was when we at Rezzed, I played Katana Zero, and then I bought it off the back of it. But like I think at that time there was Untitled Goose Game and there was Katana Zero for us to play early. Yeah. But I never get a good feel because like you've either got the developer there or you've got people watching and you don't care enough to go, right, I'm now going to commit 10 minutes of my life to learning the mechanic. They're the worst parts. That people love starting games. I hate it. Like, I hate learning new mechanics.
Yeah, or at least I don't want to do it on display to other people, especially not with an in-depth strategy game. And, Alliance of the Sacred Sons is quite in-depth just from 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of those where I was like, I'm definitely going to get this at some point, but I'm not going to play it for long here because I don't like the judgment I'm getting. The actual main reason I signed off when I did was because we found out that all of the microphones are on the same channel, all of the headsets. So further down the line from me, someone in frustration just went, "Ah!" And it came through really loud on my headset, and I was like, I'm done. I'm out. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, I can imagine you being out as soon as you sit down, you're not really in. and then something like that happens and you're definitely both feet out.
Yes, exactly. Exactly that. Yeah, now there were also I know Eddie also looked at Core Keeper, which is another one like RimWorld and Keplerth. And I played a couple of other games as well, including something called The Shape of Fantasy Verne, which I assume is Jules Verne of 20,000 Leagues. And that was actually a really interesting game, but I didn't get far because there was a queue. So I jumped off after I'd played enough to get a sense of it. Mm-hmm. But it was good fun. And another one which I think I should highlight is a game called Change, which was a homeless survival experience. And it really stood out because they'd made the the stand for it from like recycled cardboard, crushed up paper, and using sort of black marker pens to draw the names, which obviously stands out against all the perfectly produced stuff you see everywhere else.
Yeah.
And this is a little indie game, but it was actually really enjoyable. And sort of the mechanics were really enjoyable. The actual tone is not enjoyable at all.
Yeah, it's things like that you would you'd never play or even kind of usually give the time of day and stuff.
Exactly, but having played it a bit, and I had a quick chat to the developer as well, who was really nice. It was one of those where you went like, yeah, I see a lot of value in this. And I think that was another one that made both me and Ed go, this is why we're better suited to EGX resed than to EGX proper.
Yeah.
Because you get more stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I suppose that moves you on to your final thoughts then.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, sorry, they're kind of blurred together a little bit there. But
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, overall, there was one significant negative for us, was the fact that the talks on the Saturday were nowhere near as interesting to us as the ones from last year. So we didn't actually go to any of the talks, and we basically just lingered around a couple of panels and moved on.
I do love a good talk at those events, though, because it kind of breaks the day up and it gives you a nice focal point.
Massively so. And they're one of the things we normally look forward to. And on this one, there just wasn't anything that particularly drew us in. It didn't help that there were a couple of last-minute cancellations from what we saw.
Yep. Yeah.
But also we think we may have just not done enough research on the day we were going. So it looks like Friday might have had more interesting things for us. Which obviously brings in a few more difficulties in getting to it when you work a full-time job.
Yes, yeah,
but
absolutely.
But it was just the nature of the beast. So, and I mean, for one thing, all the Rocket League tournaments were on the Friday, so Eddie and Kirk were most annoyed about that one. But the other bit was it was incredibly busy. So that was a huge positive at the beginning, but after a little while got a bit tiresome. Because if you wanted to do anything, you were having to queue.
Yeah.
So I think I actually honestly think going on a Friday, if you can take the day off, might have been the better option. There might have been more freedom to do things.
Yep.
And the other thing we had to mention, all of us, was that the fudge stand has survived Ben and is going from strength to strength, despite you and another of our friend trying to completely destroy him through taking endless free samples. Please tell me you missed that. Please tell me. Yes.
Yeah. No, I did miss that. I heard fudge stand, and I thought that. So all I got from that was the fudge stand survived, which I think sounds fantastic, because that, if it's the fudge stand that was there, was it last year or the year before?
Both.
Oh my god, the fudge is amazing. Just continual free samples, therefore calorie free, doesn't count. I got my fill gone mad on that fudge.
Can I just say that is the perfect answer to what I said without you knowing what I said? I love that.
Okay.
And I think...
Good, I can't wait to listen to that on the edit.
It's going to be fantastic. And I think, though, given that is the overall thinking we've done, I feel we should move to the socials. What should people do if they had also been to EGX, Ben, and wanted to let us know their thoughts?
Sorry, was that a lead into the socials? This is almost becoming unmanageable. Right. You can email us, podcast@grumpygamers.co.uk. You can tweet us @grumpygamerspod. We're on YouTube, Grumpy Gamers Podcast, and we're also trying to be YouTube and Twitch streaming, which is Grumpy Gamers Podcast, all one word, at the same time, 7 p.m. Thursdays. Last week, I tried to get it dual casting on both, and it messed up and started disconnecting, so we just went back to Twitch. But hopefully we will be on both platforms streaming at the same time soon enough. But we'll see if that works on Thursday. But we'll be twitching on Thursday, no matter what.
Yes, indeed. But now you've ended up... good. I think for now, it's GG.
It's GG. Was that all right?